everybody, welcome back. Today let's talk about the Pentel art brush pens, and I recently got the colored brush pen, so we will be focusing on that today because that is the new product that I wanted to do a first impressions with you guys, and I even did a poll on it. So I did film a first impressions, but after exporting the video I realized that a lot of the clips were cut off because my camera overheated, so I just thought to refilm it. So today I'll be sharing with you all even more art that I did with the pens and just going through my emotions when creating the pieces and sharing with you all a little bit about not only like how the pen works but also how I use the supply and more. Let me just share with you all a little bit of background first. So I've been using the Pentel art brush pens for close to about 10 years now, but it's just only been the black and the sepia ink, so I've never really used the others. And I've been working in this sketchbook, and I started this sketchbook in 2024, but only recently I started picking it back up again and felt very creative after sketching these series of sketches. So these are done with the black and sepia brush pens. So this is how they look like. I'll probably talk about these pens every video or every other video. These are my favorite brush pens, and I feel like if you haven't gave it a shot, you should. So this is what I usually create with them. I love when they're not really inky because I just add water and then I just use it as a shadow or as another tone. And I feel like it just adds a lot more interest and a lot more depth to a piece. So I sketched quite a bit with these colors and it just got a little bit repetitive. I decided to introduce the colored brush pens, and this is where it all begins. So let me just clip it down first and we can talk a little bit about it. So the colors that I bought were these. So I got a turquoise, olive, green, steel blue, red, and violet. And out of these 5 pens, initially I thought I would like the green and the blue the most. But let me just share with you all my first impressions. Take a look. Oh, this is the olive green. It doesn't really look really olivey though. Why is it so green? Like, I don't like it. I was expecting it to be a little bit more like the cap color. I feel like it looks a bit more emerald than it does olive. There's lesser yellow in it. It's just more green. And I push out a little bit of the red. The red actually looks really bright. Okay, let's see how it translates onto paper. Holy shit, why does it look fluorescent? Okay. Still looks fluorescent though. Wow. Upon like swatching it and like using it, it was very vibrant. And I felt like it didn't reflect what I thought it would be originally, so I did not enjoy it at all. Each pen was about $5-ish, which is not too bad. So you can get it from Pentel Singapore. I didn't know that they had an online shop, so next time I'll just get my pens from there because I've always gotten my black and sepia from like other resellers, and I think that's more expensive. So you should save yourself some money if you're interested in getting them. So these were the initial pieces that we painted together, and I did not really felt comfortable, so I think it's pretty prevalent in these sketches, like the way I use the colors. The original color as opposed to what was mixed up on the illustration is very different, so it's very dulled down on the illustrations because I kept wanting to make it familiar to myself. Because I've been using the black ink so often, I kept mixing and dulling it down. Because I prefer duller and more muted colors, I kept trying to add black into the mixes and washes and trying to lift up as much as like the vibrancy if possible. The red over here is also a bit dull, even though I do actually like how it pops up on the paper and I like the contrast with the black ink. But throughout these pieces, I just felt very unfamiliar with the supplies and the colors because I don't use colors all that much, so I don't really gravitate towards very bold and bright colors. So I felt like it was a little bit of a challenge for me. Originally, the colors like the violet and the turquoise and the blues are such strong colors. And you'll see towards the end, you'll see that I start to pick up and let the color, like I respect the color more, and I try to not really change it, but try to incorporate it into my art style. But over here you can see that I'm trying to tweak the supply to fit into my idea of what I want the supply to be. It happens, like I do this for other things as well. I always try to see how I could morph it into something I would use first before getting comfortable with it, to try to use it as like it's intended to. And over here, pretty dulled down, but I still kind of enjoyed it. I just felt like it was a bit messy. I thought you could feel a little bit of the emotions I was going through just painting these, just very fearful in a way. And over here, I started to embrace it a little bit more. Over here, I still tried to blend in colors and tried to remove colors and not make it so vibrant. But over here, I like how the red translated onto this piece. I haven't tried to use the red for the outline, but I felt like it wasn't really working, so I stopped for the bottom. And the whole bodice, the whole suit is done in the red, and it's so beautiful. I like how it stands on the paper. This is on craft paper, and then on the trimmings and the details, I just mixed in a little bit of black to differentiate and give it a bit of texture. And I really like this. I think this is one of my favorite pieces from like the whole of these experimentations. And then over here, this is the same color, by the way, the same red. It's just that this one I mixed in a lot of black ink, so you can get very varying tones with it. You can use the inks like watercolor. You can mix it with water, mix it with other colors, but you just have to be mindful of your mixes. Sometimes it can dull the color down and make it very muddy looking, but I think overall, generically, it's still okay because the colors itself are quite vibrant. These are just more experimentations. Don't really like how these one turned out, so we're just gonna skip. And this was when I started using the steel blue. I wanted to use the steel blue as an outline instead. Tried to not keep it to just like filling colors, but to use it as a outline and see how it can guide my illustrations and perhaps give it a new lift. This one is also with the blues, and this blue is quite electric actually. I kind of knew that I would like this blue out of all of the colors. I feel like this one is the most expected one, and I don't really like surprises, so this is right up my alley. And then I reverted back to using that red on its own. And by this point, I think you can tell that I kind of fell in love with the red. I do pick it up a lot more in the later pages as well. Another piece with the blue as the outline. And the good thing about this pen is that it has a pretty, it's a pretty fat tip towards the back, but it comes to a very, very fine point, and it is very nice to work with. So you can use it to achieve like really fine lines like this, but you can also press down and have thicker lines. And it's very varied, so it works very well with my style because I have a sketcher style, and I like when my materials also fit and flow with how I create. So I like it very much, and I like that you can add water to it to change the tone of the colors. And then this is another page of experimentation. You can tell that I am really digging the red. So this is a full body of the red, and then I tried when it's wet to add in other colors and see how it will disperse. So I think I added in the steel blue for this, for the prints on the garment. And for this one, I also just you can tell just the difference in the way I use the materials in just a short span of pages. So this is properly respecting the color, letting the material be itself, while this was me trying to kind of change the material to fit it better. I like both. I think this one also quite nice because the tone of color is a bit of like a deeper plum. I generally don't like to use bright colors all that much, but I do really enjoy these pieces. I feel like they're very bright, and they stand out very, very nicely on white paper as well. So I feel like the red looks both great on the craft and on the white paper, and that is that's so pretty to look at. I just really like these pieces. And then we did this together. So over here I did some swatches, tried to blend the colors into one another, and you can see that I think the blending is pretty good. If you feel like the blending is a little bit hard, you can add a little bit of water at the intersections where the different colors meet. So it just the water just helps disperse it a little bit better and adds a better transition. but I do like to pick colors that are a little bit closer in the family, just so that I feel like the transition will be a bit more natural. So for this piece, what I did was I initially laid the green, I think, and into the steel blue. And before the ink dries fully, I took like a tissue and dabbed out the color. And I like that it like there's this like wash that remains on it, this ink stain on the paper. And it's usually a slightly different tone from the ink. And I love using my supplies like that. I do this pretty often with the sepia as well, but that one just doesn't have that big of a difference. It's just like a tonal difference. But this one you can clearly tell like the base color that makes up the olive green. And then over here I also added in some extra line work for texture with the purple pen. And same thing, also dabbed it up before it dried completely. It's like single color sketches. That one not so much, but this steel blue one is. And for areas that are lighter, I just mixed in more water. And then for areas that are a bit more intense and darker, I'll just directly from the brush. I do like the intensity of the color. It is nice to have a stronger color because then you have both. You can mute it down, but you also have intensity when you need it. All right, and then this is the next one that we also did together. Same thing, I have another swatch over here, red into purple into blue. Blends pretty nicely. I think it's pretty seamless, and this one is quite a colorful piece. I tried to use more colors on this piece, on this robe, just because I do feel like I don't tend to pick up some colors. I feel like I don't really tend to pick up the purple all that much, and I don't do too much of the turquoise as well. So I tried to just add little details of the colors on the robe, and at the end I just added in like water to see how they will all blend into one another. When the ink is kind of semi-dry, you can run a wash of water through, and whatever that's not dry, the ink will be picked up and it will just travel on its own depending on like where the water goes. And I like that kind of like it's not really spontaneous, it's just like a natural order. I think it's something that you cannot control. You can't control where the water wants to disperse itself to. You can put the water where it is, but where the pigment decides to dry at, it's totally up to the pigment. So I do like that kind of a natural order in my work. I don't know how to say that, so yeah, but that's just I hope I got that point across. And for this one, I just wanted something very intense. I wanted an orange actually. I think I'm gonna stick to these colors first, but maybe when I'm out of it, I'm gonna try a new batch of colors. I actually wanted to see if I could mix an orange, but I just can't really get the color, so just went ahead with the red. And then for the bottom, the shadows and all, just added in steel blue and then went in with some black to make the contrast a bit higher. And then these two are just additional like experiments that I did. And like I mentioned, I like doing this, so I like putting down the color and then blotting away the excess ink with like a tissue paper, and it just creates like a different tone over there. And there's also some like, how do I say it, like a mismatch. You can tell where it's deeper in color and where it's a little bit lighter. I like to do that for my works because I think it looks way more sketchier, and I feel like it really ties my pieces together and it works very well with my style. So that's how I like to use the supply. And I feel like when you have water as an element, it's always very easy to introduce new textures into your work and to make it just you know, just more interesting to look at, more fun, and all of that. So this is it for today's video. I hope that you've enjoyed the works. I definitely did. I still like both. I think I like both the colored versions, and I also enjoy my black and whites very, very much. But the colored versions just add a new dimension as well. It's fun to play with color, and I think these pens, like at the end, I really enjoyed it. But definitely my first impression of it when I did the swatch and when I did all of that, I did not like it, and I thought it was going to be a disappointment. But I do like to give myself time with the supply to see how I can make it work for myself, because I feel like it's the same for almost every supply, unless it's like a really bad product, but most of the time you'll be able to make it work. It's just how you go about it, how you try to tweak it in your favor and all of that. I do really like how these turned out. I feel like they were really fun, very experimentative as well. But I think my favorite actually has got to be this one. I don't know, I just like how it stands out from the page. I love it on craft paper, and it's pretty versatile too. On white paper, it's also really intense. I like them both. So this is it for today's video. I hope that you guys have enjoyed it, and I'll see you guys very soon in my next one. Bye!